where you put your
It's,
spreadsheet.
I found it.
Okay, welcome, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions. It is January.
I think so, yeah.
And we are working on our capital budget. And with us this morning, we have the judiciary as well as BGS to talk over section 14. We're going to get some updates on some of the county courthouses from the judiciary first. Then we'll go into BGS for those that are owned by the state. So welcome.
Thank you. Good
Both of
morning.
you. So if you could both identify yourself for the record.
I'm sure Terry Porcone, State Court Administrator, and Greg Mosley, who's the Chief of Finance and Administration. I do have hard copies of the brief memo that we submitted with people.
Please get them my time. Are we better? Okay. Some folks work electronically, some folks work with copies. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about some of the county buildings and some of the projects that involve state courthouses, have projects that BGS is managing. So Joe Asia will talk about those. I do not have the spreadsheet in front of me, so I don't know what order you want to go in, but the easiest one.
Does someone have their spreadsheet? Well, we have Woodstock, Essex, Lemoyle.
So Woodstock and Lamoille probably should go together since they're very similar projects. Last year in the capital budget, it was appropriated to have backup generators installed at two courthouses. There's no adjustments being asked for this year. Both projects are still ongoing. Both projects have hit some design snags. So in Woodstock, the issue was exhaust where the vendor decided to put the generator, the exhaust was going to infiltrate the HVAC system.
That's not good.
That's not good. So they had to redesign, and the redesign involved getting library approval. The library is the neighbor, and they need to get an agreement to share that space. So that generator and a tank will be right between the property line, or right on the property line between the courthouse and the library. There's not expected to be any issues in the library. The communications and some meetings have happened, but they still are working on some of the details. They expect to start building once the snow melts.
Is that a town-owned library or is it a nonprofit?
I think it's the Woodstock Town.
I think it's the town.
They have to work with
The town's been involved in these conversations.
Yeah, so it's probably a town property.
Not a lot of space there.
No, it's pretty landlocked. Out space. Were they gonna put the generator in the back of the building? It's gotta be where they were.
They're going to put it now on the side of the building. The back of the building is going to be problematic. And they were going to have to put an exhaust pipe up the back of the building, up to the roof. And historic preservation was not going to, but they didn't want to do that. So they're now moving it to the side of the building, which is right between the library and the,
So we put in 100K for this. And I was trying to remember, is there money from the county budget going in for this at all?
I think only ongoing maintenance, not the implementation.
And with this redesign and delays, is it gonna increase the cost?
That's not over the budgeted amount. So it's only been some extra hours of redesign work. Most of the work has been happening with the county administrators in the town, so not on our dime.
Just wondering about the 100,000.
Still good on that.
Questions? That one's easy.
Similar circumstance up in Lamoille, where a backup generator was appropriated last year for 190,000. Again, they are going through some design issues, again, with the exhaust being an issue. All the courthouses have had new HVAC put in, and the vendors who came in with the design did not take into account where the vents and the intake for the courthouses are. So that's also being redesigned. That one actually, I believe, will end up with a exhaust pipe that goes up the back of the building, up to the roof. That also is waiting for the snow to melt so that they can pour the concrete and get that started. And there's no adjustment asked for this year.
So they just needed to make a change to where it's going. They did. It's just, and it's not adding cost to it.
No. All right, that's good.
That's great.
The design was done internally or the vendor of the?
The vendor is a subcontractor, and so it was not done internally. And when we reviewed it, we realized the HVAC problem. And that's when we went back and asked them to remove that.
Okay.
Or exhaust it and replace. So neither of those projects, I think, are at issue. We're just, at this point, finishing up some details on the design and then waiting for the snow to melt. It should be good to go. That brings us to the Essex Connector project. This one does have a adjustment request in there for $500,000. We were planning to start that project in the fall before the snow flies. And we hit snag. There is a water system in that corner of Guildhall with fire hydrants. So the assumption when we started the project is that we would be able to tap into the municipal water supply to feed the sprinkler system. Neither one of those buildings, the courthouse or the meeting house that are going to be connected, neither one of them have a sprinkler system. They're very old buildings, but because of this renovation project, sprinkler systems required, water is required. When we started looking into the water system, we had some questions. We got an early
Water system of Guildhall.
Guildhall. And so we had engineers come in and test the flow rates and it failed.
It's not enough.
It's not enough to support fire suppression. And so we informed the town of our results. We went to a select board meeting and talked to them. We left there realizing that in order to move this project forward, we would have to build a fire pump and supply tank separate from the municipal water system in order to make sure that the courthouse and the meeting house are sufficiently fed fire suppression water. So that delayed us until spring. So there's been no construction. There's been a lot of design and redesign. We're still working on defining the estimate on the fire pump. The 500,000 is still a bit of an estimate. We're still trying to get estimates from the subcontractors, but essentially what it is a 14,000 gallon tank somewhere around the courthouse, and then a pump that would pump it into the building when the sprinkler system is initiated. And the delay was because usually the tanks are underground and you need a bigger pump to pump the water up. In this case, there was a garage behind the building, so there was the option of putting it at ground level and hiding it within a garage. So we realized the garage would have to come down. We'd have to build a different garage around the tanks. And now they're looking at a hill behind the courthouse that would be above grade. So the water would be pumped down. That impacts the fire pump that's needed. And so we're still trying to refine that. We just found out a couple of weeks ago that there's no ledge in the spot where they want to bury tanks. So it's still an ongoing.
There's no ledge.
There's no ledge.
It's good.
Which we were able to figure out right before the snow hit.
So for the town of Guildhall, their drinking water system, are they part of a water district? Be on their own.
I don't know a lot about their water system, but what I have learned is that they get their water supply from Northumberland in New Hampshire. There's a pipe that comes across underneath the bridge. It's an 8-inch water pipe that goes to the bridge that then goes into a 6-inch water pipe across the bridge that then goes back into an 8-inch water pipe once it's the Vermont side, goes into a meter, which is a 4-inch meter with a 6-inch pipe. So that design raised all sorts of yellow flags with us. And that's what caused us to call the engineers in early to say, let's test this system. So what they do is they put the pressure readers on the hydrants. They open up the hydrant and they see what happens to the flow rate when you're dispensing water. And the flow rate was not up to state standards, just barely underneath. And so, and there was a lot of leaking around the fire hydrants, which is a little bit of leaking is normal. A lot of leaking is not. There's a lot of leaking. And so
Losing pressure too, then.
right. The engineers thought that there was something underneath the ground that needed to be looked at and fixed. Okay. Hydrants are
Would
built.
that help the
pressure.
Yeah.
You're at that place then?
Yeah, but
That
the,
would be helpful.
the confusing piece though is that fire hydrants are built where they vent under the ground. So that when you turn them off, the water drains so that it doesn't freeze and break. So there's something with the drains there that,
Yeah, it's draining out, and then it's free.
Oh, gosh.
That's all right, Tara.
I can,
I can't imagine for the town of Guildhall. They have many folks on a public system. And Guildhall is such a small community. It's so rural. I can't imagine.
If they have a water system.
Yeah, I bet you a lot of folks have wells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a small community and it's so rural out there. I can't imagine.
I have the assistant judge, Ken Stransky here, who might know more about the water supply, but it's a corner of Guildhall that includes half a dozen houses or so, and then the probably 7 or 8 hydrants. And
It's not very big.
it's not very big.
It's not very big. That's why I'm wondering if it's part of a water district with other communities up there. Just curious. And, the other thing that's going through my mind is if there is an issue right now with the water pressure to begin with in Guildhall with their water system, regardless of what's happening with the courthouse or not, we fund drinking water projects for communities, and I'm just curious if maybe they're working with the state to kind of update or repair their water system. That's the other piece that's going through my mind.
and, Representative Edmonds, at this Guildhall Select Board meeting, we suggested that be looked into. I don't know whether they did or not, but in fact, when the water system was last upgraded 20 years ago or so, it was with a state grant.
Right.
But we don't know, we really haven't had contact with them after that meeting, which was in December. So,
And there's room this way.
So when will you be getting the estimate back?
We were expecting it before today's testimony. We did not get it as of last night. Pieces of it come in. What we're waiting for is the actual fire pump itself, the cost estimate for that. The other pieces around there's a pump house. There's some, obviously some concrete tanks that can either be precast and brought in or poured in place. And there's the excavation work and mechanical and electrical. So we have some of those pieces, but not the actual equipment itself.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, do we pay $500,000 here or do we work with A&R to really work with Guildhall to update their drinking water system so that there would be enough pressure in there for the courthouse to hook in? Because either way, you're coming to the Capitol bill for money. Either way, either you folks are coming here for, at this point, a $500,000 request for a tank and a pump, or Guildhall is working with A&R to be put on the priority list to upgrade their drinking water. And we provide money in the capital bill through A&R for drinking water, for municipalities for drinking water and water districts. So I'm just kind of thinking either way, there's money from the capital bill that's going to be going to a drinking water project around the courthouse, one way or the other. And I just don't want to be duplicative here.
Mhm.
Does the committee follow me on this?
Yes, but also.
But wouldn't that be a lot more money to upgrade this town's drinking water
They
system?
may have to do it if they're leaking to begin with.
Right.
If they've already got a problem right now, regardless,
Right.
they're gonna have to upgrade.
I would rather get the money to come through A&R so they pull down the other dollars.
But we still have to put a match.
Yeah, we still have to match, but it wouldn't be,
We get more.
I don't think it'd be $500,000.
We don't know. Maybe not much, but you never know. And then you still have to, it may delay the project for the courthouse. Because you can't go forward until you know you can support a sprinkler system. You can't do anything in that courthouse until the sprinkler system is resolved.
Representative Edmonds, I'm happy to reach out to the Guildhall Select Board to see if they have made any overtures in that regard.
And I would think if they've got a leak in the system and their fire hydrants right now aren't even pressurized. they got a problem.
That's why we thought it was critical to inform them of our test results so that they would be aware, which we did, but again, there wasn't any indication at that meeting as to what steps they would be taking after that, other than to tell us we should proceed to address our particular sprinkler system.
How long ago was it that you spoke to?
December.
Right.
Would this, had we not uncovered the water system problems, would this have been sort of a no-brainer that you just were connected and it would have been done?
That was our thinking going in. We saw the fire hydrants. We thought it was a
Yeah.
system that we could tap into for the sprinklers.
It's odd because you got fire hydrants out there and there's not enough for like, what is, you're talking an inch and a half pipe, right?
I'm
No,
not,
it's from-
For the sprinkler.
For the sprinkler system.
oh, the sprinkler system is a small pipe like inch and a half, but
Yeah, right.
the feeding tubes are probably, I think about 8 inches
Oh, they
in
are.
diameter. They're big. The flow during a fire, you need thousands of gallons in a minute. It's not like residential use.
Do we know there's not enough pressure to the fire hydrants, or are we assuming that?
No, they went,
We have an engineer's report that said that.
that's what triggered the whole thing on their part.
Yeah.
I mean, on the judiciary's part, that's what triggered it, that there isn't enough pressure. And there's leaks.
Yeah, and one piece of information outside of the water piece that I wanted to share with you. I know this committee heard testimony about transports yesterday, their sheriff transports, and how long they stay at the courthouse. It's important to know that one of the reasons for this project is to build the necessary holding cells, sally ports. Right now, those detainees are held in cruisers. Sometimes we use a conference room, but they're sitting in the parking lot for most of the day when they come in. So this would build the proper holding cell for thermal courthouse.
So I'm wondering, Tate, if you could reach out to I think he's the commissioner. I don't think he's the deputy commissioner, Neil Kamen. And have him, he's in the building quite often, if he could circle by here so I can ask him about Guildhall. See if there's anything there. And those folks are coming in next week. We're gonna schedule the drinking water folks from A&R in next week. Maybe we can kind of figure out this piece of the puzzle to see Guildhall. I mean, it's a big cost for them. For the small community, it's a big cost for them.
They referenced the status of their budget
Yeah,
Yes.
from when we were there.
it's such a small community. I don't know what the population is,
200 something.
if that. Kevin?
It's a tangent, but it's a little shocking that we've got fire hydrants that aren't working and we don't know about it. And so we try to have a pressure. I would assume there are rules, and I don't like to add rules, but we ought to be checking our fire hydrants periodically to make sure there's water in case there's a real fire.
It's up to the towns.
The last test that was done in Guildhall that I'm aware of is one in the mid-90s. And it passed, the system passed the test at that point. What has happened, to my understanding, is over in North Umbridge is they changed the water supply. It used to be a reservoir back when the test came back fine. And since then, they have changed to 2 tanks. One is elevated, so the pressure is good. One is lower, and that's the pressure, that's the water that comes to Guildhall, and the pressure is less than what was predicted.
So they're at the mercy of the state of New Hampshire as well.
Somewhat, yes.
That's where their water supplies come in.
Well, the reservoir is there. If I'm remembering.
Hmm.
The reservoir was there, but that's not.
There was a reservoir there, but since then they have built some tanks.
But those are not New Hampshire.
Those are New Hampshire's tanks.
They are.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
across the river.
Okay, okay.
And there's a pipe that goes under that bridge that feeds that section of Guildhall for
Okay.
residential water and for the fire hydrant system.
Well, Guildhall is at the mercy of another state and another town for their drinking water. Which is not a good situation to be in.
But it doesn't sound like that's the problem. The problem is we've got leaking. So if we check the pressure, then we
And they checked it back in the mid-90s.
nineties.
So it's up to the town to do that. Up to the towns.
We were not given an indication that anything was planned in the next few months, which made us want to get ready for spring implementation. And capital budget adjustment request was the way to do that. So here we are.
And you're not even sure if the 500,000 would cover it.
I'm confident that it will. We're still waiting for pieces, but we've got good people that are pulling these estimates together. They've been refined a little bit. It won't be over 500,000. It might be 480, might be 475. But anything left over will get reverted back to the capital fund anyway. Good morning.
Good morning. I know. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Now, our other projects are in state-owned courthouses and AGS is here to talk about some of those if the committee is interested.
So you've got 3.685. Is that still anticipated to cover the cost of, do you have construction documents ready to go?
Everything's up to sprinkler design.
So the longer that takes to figure that out may impact the construction time frame in dollars possibly.
Yes, we could get started earlier than winter allows because there's some renovations inside the building that we could start with. But we don't want to start any of that until we know we can finish. So if we were to receive funding or a plan that would finish our fire pump or our sprinkler water issue, then we could start, in February, March before the ground thawed. But we would start with work inside the building.
So this is a good project for the committee members to learn. Because there has been questions, why is there, we appropriate, but we don't appropriate, we authorize the dollars for certain projects. And 2 years later, or a year and a half later, or 2 years later, why isn't the project completed? And this is a very good example in terms of what can pop up for projects that we've listed and authorized expenditures. And could be 2 or 3 years later, and it still hasn't gotten off the ground or is delayed. And we don't know those things. Last year, we didn't know what we were going to encounter with this project in terms of the sprinkler system and the water system. It's out of the state's hands. It's out of our hands. It's a local problem. It's a local problem. It's up to the town of Guildhall for their drinking water system, and they didn't even realize themselves that they were losing pressure in their system. So these things happen, particularly when we do projects in the capital budget. There's things out of our control that pop up in these projects, and that's why the projects get delayed. So it's just for the committee, just so you can process this, because this happens all the time in different places. It's not much we can do. You want to weigh in? Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Ed Stransky, and I'm one of the assistant judges, and one of the things that I think we've learned from this, which is a wonderful thing, even though it's painful. We all walk by fire hydrants and we all assume they work
I'll assume.
that way. And we all know that they assess you and me. But one of the things that came out of this when Greg and the team started talking about this standalone tank, and we looked out the back window and we've got a hillside, and let's just do a separate standalone system, separate from the town. And it just seemed like It's so simple and so easy, and it would be so fast. And if a fire starts, the tank would put out the fire instantly before it could spread anywhere. And whether the town ever fixes its system or not, it wouldn't matter. You know, our own system would solve all the county and the courthouse issues. Sheriff's, you know, everything would be done. And that was the brilliance that we learned from this, and it was really fortunate. You know, everything else in town could burn up because the system is never gonna be fixed, but our system could do it. And we've got all the contracts, you know, subcontractors, they're all in place, ready to go. That's,
We're actually at risk of losing contractors. They're lining up their work in the spring and they want to know if this project is going to go or not. So
They're not gonna know until money gets through our process, which won't be until April or May.
we were movers lined up to move the staff into the sheriff's building when this all happened. I mean, this was that close to happen.
And that was this fall.
Yeah.
Never take anything on face value.
Nope.
So you anticipate the estimates for this project to come back in a few weeks shortly?
shortly,
So when you do, can you circle back with us, please?
yes,
We'll
absolutely.
let you know the minute we have the final estimate in hand, which we had anticipated having in time for today.
Yeah.
So apologies for the.
No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I assume the fire department knows the problem and they're deciding to check more regularly than 25 years.
I'm assuming it's a water
Water
department.
department will never, I mean, that to me is maybe more critical than upgrading the courthouse right now, because we've got citizens that are thinking they've got coverage and they don't. Sounds like LA to me.
Greg, so when is your cutoff? Like can you wait to get an answer in April or May? Or are these guys gonna be like, we can't wait till then, right? Because they've got other work that I know they can line up.
It's a situation that'll have to be managed and we're working very well with the general contractor.
Yep.
But they are trying to make sure that they stay busy through the spring.
Right.
So I don't know the answer to that. There's no deadline, there's no cutoff.
I got some thoughts, but if you could get back to us as quickly as possible. The other thing I would recommend, if you could reach out to Senate Institutions Committee and see if you could get testimony in there as soon as possible on this. Because if they can understand the complexity of this and the time frame, we might be able to work something out. for the two committees. With a letter of intent or something of that magnitude. We've done that in the past. I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, outside the box, but there's a few things that we could possibly help with. Knowing the construction schedule, because they were ready, the contractors were ready to break ground in the fall. They're on hold. So I would really recommend you reach out ASAP to Senate institutions and get on their agenda.
We'll do that today.
Yeah, and then I can have a conversation with the chair. And do it. So, you know, once you get the estimate back.
Thank you. We appreciate the effort to this unique problem.
Figure something out, maybe.
Sorry, Jared.
Anything else? I'm just making a note.
As we turn our attention to the state-owned courthouses, I know that Orleans and even the Washington Criminal Courthouse in Barry are, you know, on the radar screen. And Joe is here to talk more in depth about where those projects are at, but just wanted to mention that we have a couple of criminal courthouses that don't have the proper security system, the Sally Port, the holding cells, the pathway into a courthouse and out that would keep them separate from the general public. Orleans and Barry are the other two courthouses in addition to Guildhall that does not have the proper Sally Port.
Orleans and
Newport in Orleans and Washington County, Barry. And those are on the to-do list.
And the Berry one, that's the one we visited a few years ago. Which is, we have put money in to find a new location or expansion of that courthouse in previous capital bills. Where are we? That's a BG.
Thank you so much.
thanks for the cookies.
Oh. And Joe, you're not prepared to talk about the berries, but I think we've got to get an update because we've had previous appropriations for the Berry Courthouse. And this wasn't this past session, I believe it was the previous session. And we had language in there to see if we could find another site for the courthouse or find a way to do an expansion. And that was in the previous biennium. And so I need a refresher on where we are, and the new members need to be updated. And Joe has this little smile on his face. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
For the record, Joe Agia, Director of Design and Construction with BGS. Not in the slideshow, though, is the Washington County Superior Court in Barry. And so I can give you some feedback on that. And basically is, if you look at the money that we're giving back into the cash fund sources, there's a line item in there because we believe that Newport should go before the Barry Courthouse in getting rebuilt, new, whatever. So we have given back some funding.
That's in the reallocations,
Yeah,
but
yes, it is.
is it various projects or?
Yes. Down on 189
189. You got 750
and 50 there. So
out of how much?
that I don't have any offhand. The number you're talking about it, other than giving that money back. There's another line item, if I think I remember right, we're giving back. That is under various projects. It was a total of 700,000, 750, something like that. We were going to retain 350 to still develop a plan on what we want to do with Barrett. And then the rest of the money will be reallocated back. But I can get that information.
I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know much.
But we weren't just dropping off Barry 100%. What we are looking to do is focus more on Newport with Barry coming up next and what we can do. What we have not done with Barry is really look at the building itself as a whole and whether that could be renovated to accommodate the needs for judiciary. Mainly the Sally Port, vehicle Sally Port, and everything else. And then on the internal part of it is to keep the front of the house separate from the back of the house and that there's no interaction that they have now. Right now, everybody shares the same common hallway. It's of a traffic situation.
And there was, when we were looking at this a couple years ago, there was also the thought of maybe purchasing some abutting land.
There was talk of that. We never investigated the abutting land. We did go out for a property search and did not find anything that was worthwhile or met our needs or the price was in the range. Since then, though, I think there's a greater look at certainly the downtown Barry area of the needs because of the flooding. What truly is available when you're looking at a site map. The Berry Courthouse itself did not flood. It sits well above the 100-year flood elevation, but it became an island during the 23 flood in 24. So
So I know what you're saying, that Newport's a priority. But is there something that we can do language-wise or moving money around to kind of help continue the process of the Berry Courthouse, maybe going back out for another search of property?
that's where using some of that funds is to look at the building itself and can it be renovated. Now, to do that would also be moving two of the other tenants that are in the building also, different location. We did do a study back in,
2 years ago?
further back than that. I forget exactly when that was done, that looked at putting an addition on.
You showed us that last year.
It wasn't that favorable, but
Yeah.
it shows potential.
Yeah.
So to look at that in a more holistic way of, not putting on a large addition, but what can we do to the building for the right cost?
Because the elevator is killing us in there, right?
That's Newport.
Oh, that's Newport, sorry.
This is shared hallways where the offenders coming in and sitting across the hall from the victim. And the judges don't have a separate entrance. They have to walk through this too. So there's a lot of. James?
Just because I wasn't sure I heard you right. Very basically. So you're saying out of the 750 that I think it's 750, right? That some of that money is going to stay in this project, but most of it's going to move to Newport. Did I hear that right? Or am I?
No, that 700,000 is being reallocated to the bottom line.
750,000 is being reallocated, but they still have a balance left of about 350 plus
Okay.
from the previous
I
appropriation.
heard it wrong. Okay, thank you. Get on the right page.
I just don't want to lose momentum on Berry. And that's why I'm just wondering if it would be worthwhile, and maybe John could do this, take a look at previous capital bill for language, not what we did last year, but the previous biennium. I believe it was the previous biennium. We put in money and language for the Berry Courthouse. So it would be really good if maybe, John, you could take a look at that and let us know the money amount and what the directions, because we had language in there in the last biennium.
Yeah, if you're gonna look back, that would help to be able to find some on that.
The money,
I worked with Scott yesterday with lining, linemen with what's out there and it's potentially coming back or not. If you could find that would. Thank you.
Boom, just like that.
I was looking for the previous appropriation, previous biennium.
Comment on yet. So
That is what Steph just sent me this morning.
I'll talk to her again so you get comments. There are in FY 24 cash, there was 850,000. And I want to say that is the one that we're looking to keep some of those funds to complete this planning.
I'd only be,
We're looking at in the balance to be reallocated, but I'll confirm that.
is there any bonded money? But you said
From what
that,
I'm looking at this spreadsheet, no, but I'd like to, before giving you a real answer, I'd like to do some homework.
yeah, because what we're doing is reallocating 750,000 of the cash, and that only leaves you 100,000. You said you have like 350,000 plus, so there's got to be some bonded dollars in there. Maybe a
That's the one that we're giving to the bottom line.
right, and you're keeping 100,000 in cash. So maybe John could do some digging for that.
Sorry, John.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more for the judiciary. I thought we were like sort of courtroom in Barry essentially, and I'm just wondering how is that contributing to like
sort of the whole backlog, and do we need to be talking like an interim measure like we did in Bennington with, a mobile courtroom or something? So, I mean, if it's that bad, yeah.
So there wouldn't be room.
If the plan was to give two tenants, would that be the clear space for?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, and that's what this planning study would do is, what can we do with the existing building without putting an addition on? Knowing you still need a vehicle sally port, and how to work that into it. And I've got some ideas. I talked a little bit with Greg about that, but it's really about from an architect's point of view, what can be done? Because, you've got 12 parking spaces or something like that. So you're very minimal. You don't want to lose parking and how the whole thing works. But, if one or two of the tenants that are residing there now, we move them out to a different location. Does it work for you? And that's the response.
The tenant.
State's attorney, AHS, DCF is in there on the fourth floor, and I think probation parole is.
CMP is in there.
I don't recall if they're still in
Did they
there.
move, any of them move up to McFarland House? McFarland?
I don't know. When they're just internal moves, that's Eric Pembroke's daily work involved.
Oh, could you kind of check out, I mean, they're all state employees and we own the state building. Oh, Emily, you're here too. We have the state building McFarland House, the road there. Scott?
Chair, for the record, Scott Moore, Fiscal Office. Looking in Act 69, I do see $1 million in bonded.
And what year was that?
This would be 2023. It does say $1 million in bonding, plus the $750 in cash for renovations at the Washington County Superior Courthouse.
Hang on. There was in FY 23, there was $1 million bond plus cash in FY 23. And that was 750.
Correct.
So then in FY 24, there was an additional 850 cash.
I'd have to look at that act, but this is Act 69 that's passed in 2023, so I'll have to go look and see.
You gotta get the thread of money. John?
Yeah, John Gray, Upson Legislative Council. I'm not seeing, I can take a further look at the extra 850. What I see is an expansion of the purposes for the 750. The 24 capital bill.
Is that a new 750 or is
Same
it?
750. It's just expanding the purposes to which.
So it wasn't 850 then in 24 cash.
I'm not seeing that.
I just want to double check that. I want to see what the expanded language was, which I think I know what it was, but I just want to.
Yeah, the expanded language is adding design and land acquisition. And then there's a standalone section in the policy sections related to authorizing uses of amounts in Act 69 to purchase the land.
I want to see this written down. And there was also, we had language about including the city of Barry in the discussions in terms of looking for space.
Yep, to consult with the city of Barry on potential options for renovating or replacing the courthouse.
I want to get all that in one spot so that we can see it, and that will help the repo. So you're reallocating 750 cash, which leaves you $1 million, and then you've expended some from that $1 million, I would assume. So I want to know how much has been expended. So I want to put all these moving pieces together. Does that make sense for the committee? Not that we don't trust you, Joe.
I'm gonna stick with a script next time, not go off. We won't talk about Barry, but no, so we will get you that information.
I just want to connect the dots, and I really don't, I know Newport has bumped up to be the priority, but I don't want to lose momentum on Barry. If that makes sense. Okay, so let's go back to Joe's script.
All right. Section 14.
Mhm.
On old funds, for the courthouse renovations. We're basically done that renovation right now. Court is opening up next week, back in its new home, renovated home, should say. They're just doing some touch-ups now and, you know, all that fun stuff that comes at the end of a project that you have to finish up, so. This funding that is shown on the slide is all for the renovation of that building. For the new HVAC boiler, electrical, the likes of that, and the two additions. We are asking in the second half of the biennium for 1.6 million in bonded funds. And that is for the Riverbank stabilization project. Originally, it was included. However, when we went out to bid, we just didn't have enough money. And so we moved that from that part of the project and plan to come back later. There is fill in that area. The bank was steep originally when we purchased the property and built the courthouse there back in the 80s. And now it's just starting, certain parts of it are starting to slide down the bank. So we went out and we hired a consultant, geotechnical engineer to evaluate the bank and give us some options. Two of those options that we elected not to pursue was, one was a retaining wall with some tiebacks and then just mesh fabric and tiebacks to the bank. The problem with those two, there's a sewer line that runs through that back lot between the building and the top of the riverbank. And so it's been very difficult to lay out those ties so that they do not impact that sewer line. So the other option was to remove some of the earth of the bank and you put riprap back in, key it into the bottom of the slope, which means you just dig it in, not into the river, from the bottom of the slope to help stabilize that whole riprap going up the slope of the bank to hold it into place.
Is it cutting down some of that brush and tree?
Yes, some of the brush and all will go away because the brush that has grown up over time also impacts the stabilization of that riverbank.
And the sewer line, is the sewer line there for the building, the courthouse?
Yes, it does tie into that, but it also continues over to the railroad station.
And do we own that sewer line or is it municipal?
Municipal. I believe it is. We have never done any work on it, but
Yeah, who knows?
because others tie into it. So as you can see in the upper photo, it's the crack sealing in the pavement. The is due to the riverbank sliding off, and you have that nice gentle bow in the guardrail. It's not supposed to like that on an angle. It's supposed to be vertical. So there is movement going on. It's not going to slide down the bank tomorrow. But strangely enough, if you look down on the bottom photo, the elevation between the water and the courthouse itself, the 100-year flood elevation is probably 6 feet off of the door of the courthouse. The water can get up that high. If that were to potentially happen, it could be catastrophic.
Do you know how high it came up during Irene?
I don't.
So before I go to Sean, the upper picture, that garage door, is that where the sheriff's drop go in to bring detainees, or also where law enforcement drops folks off
That is correct.
at Sally Port?
Yes.
There's folks ever perspective, there's a sheriff's vehicle out there. It looks like. So that's where they come in the back of the building when they're transporting folks. Just to connect the dots from yesterday. Sean?
So the riprap wall,
Yes.
Joe, would it go from kind of, how long is the quote? Is it like 100 yards or?
A couple hundred feet.
It is a couple hundred feet, so 75 yards.
Further, roughly where the top photo is taken from, if
Yeah.
you went down the riverbank there, there's a culvert
Yep.
coming in, and that's got a concrete head wall and sidewalls on it. So it's roughly in that point going towards on the top photo to that shed in that area where the track.
And then worst case scenario, that's in, there's a flood, it's 6 feet from the place. That's gonna hold the building together and the land together.
To hold the land, yes.
Gonna hold the land. Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody else doesn't really know what it is, and as soon as you say it, I probably will. What's rip? Can you explain what riprap is?
Large rocks.
That are,
They're
that are
nice.
Lego
They-
together.
Gotcha.
They start at the bottom,
Got
go slope and work their way up and place them. So when you drive around the state, you'll see, nice stone embankment that's running along and that's riprap.
They're all over the place.
No, as soon as he said it, I
Yeah.
got it. But I had something very different in my mind. Like where they have the, like what looks like snow fence with all the stuff built in and
Avians, yes.
yeah, that's what I had in my mind. So,
Yeah. They could work also. They're just, the riprap somewhat interlocks.
yeah, I get it now.
Where the Gabions, you gotta drive a rod through to anchor them together.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim?
I was gonna say, there's a really recent project by Monument Road in Missisquoi. Riprap project to stabilize the bank. I don't know if you were involved with it.
No,
But the state wasn't from, well,
it can stay weather than be trans.
Anything else on this one before we jump to Newport? Okay. Glad this project's getting done. It's been many years and.
Yes. Another one for many years in the works.
Yeah, well, Newport keeps going and going and going.
Newport. Again, we have looked, and put out an advertisement to search for land. And we found there was some up in Derby, but talking with judiciary, and all, it's really about being more in areas where there's public transportation, where the people are. And Derby was just a little bit too far out of town. So we're still looking into the city of Newport on what to do. Because of the historic nature of this building, putting an addition on would be pretty difficult. We did do a study 5 years ago, 6 years ago on that actually connected it to the county court. That ended up, I think, with like adding 5 elevators because of the different elevations between the 2 courts. So when you look at the public entrance, needing accessible elevators versus also from the detainees coming in, now you work the back half of the house. It was a lot of elevators to get you to basically, different floors, and some of them was only at like a half floor that you're going up.
Really?
So, yes. So because there's a different elevation between the county court and the state court. So it's really about finding another property to build this on. But some of the money that has been appropriated has been expended, 126,000 so far. And what that was for is the elevator project that we just finally had to go forward with because it was at a point where it was not reliable at all. Although the elevator has been modernized, it still does not comply with the American Disability Act and standards. It's still a narrow, you have to switch to a special wheelchair, then back into that elevator. So the elevator is located inside the central stair tower. And so it can't be expanded. Probation and parole and the state's attorney used to be in this facility. They are no longer. So similar to what I mentioned in Barry, could judiciary fit now in this building? Yes, but there's so many things that are still non-compliant. The not shown in this photo, but on the other end is where the accessible entrance is, whereas the public comes through the center door in this building. And that's where they get processed coming in. So when you're in a wheelchair, that's different. Or if you got to use the ramp and you're coming in sort of the back door, it's not easily accessible. And then judiciary staff have to then pivot to have somebody coming into that. So even though it potentially could fit, it's still not a great fit. It would not be interior sally port for the vehicles. Sheriff's vehicles coming in because of the backside of the lot. In the photo up above, it'd be on the right-hand side of the building that's on the corner of the parking lot. And I forget how many cars that holds, but it's angled parking. It's very tight. And so there's no real way of putting a vehicle sally point in there for accessibility, let alone then how do you bring that detainee through the courthouse? Still the same situation. Everybody's going through different doors, but you end up at the same elevator and stairway almost. So that also becomes a point of contention. So again, it's looking for land and what to do. The City of Newport, the downtown development, Newport Downtown Development Corp and whatnot, is, they have developed a master plan and they have looked at potentially, working with us to, sort of relocate. One of their ideas was the land behind the county court. In the upper right or upper center photo on this one here, the county court is the longitudinal horizontal building. On the lower part of that building, there was a building out back, the old jailhouse, that's gone. So there's potential for that, but again, that's county land, it's not state land. And how this whole interaction works, so everything's up in the air and we're just trying to now this year move forward, get it queued in and come up with an actual plan on what we're looking to do, whether it's looking at the hole in the ground again, the pit, or someplace else in downtown. But again, like I said, the Newport Development Group, they have met with us, so it's given us some ideas. They have their plan and, we looked at it and said, okay, that's nice and, may or may not work.
How are you then, Kevin?
Can you just remind me about when you walked away from it? Was that just cost?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was almost double the value.
And it's still in receivership,
Yes, it is.
Kevin?
I'm sure I asked last year, we're not compliant to federal law or Vermont law. This,
In the elevator, it's the ADA standards we're not compliant with.
which is
That is
federal.
correct. Yes.
So we must be on a waiver or grandfathered in for a period of time. Is there some deadline that this has to be done to
There's
be?
no deadline. It's one of those that's a historic building. We can't renovate it. And as long as that elevator the shaft stays the way it is, we can still use it.
Okay.
Once you
It doesn't mean that-
renovations and it triggers.
Right. And that still doesn't prevent lawsuits from happening because it is a standard that you should do it to comply.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I just feel we're right back to square one on this, trying to figure out where to go. So on the bottom of the schematic there, the design, the long rectangle building and the small square one behind that, that is county owned
That is correct.
and county land. And one of those buildings, the smaller square one, is vacant from what I
Yeah.
can see.
So it's been demolished.
It's not.
It was the old jail.
So vacant, it's not there.
Yeah, it's gone. So have there been conversations with the side judges in terms of working together on this, or getting some state function on county land? Emily?
Sure, Emily Kosicki, Deputy Commissioner of Buildings and General Services for the record. So we have worked closely with Judy Fury. There have been conversations with the county judges, and as Joe referenced, we've also been working very closely with the city of Newport representatives from the city, as well as some of their redevelopment group on options, because they're re-envisioning their downtown development. So while we don't have a specific site to share right now, we are optimistic, very optimistic that we will be moving forward with a site. And that's why we're really prioritizing Newport, one, because it's been a long time coming, but two, we also think that we have viability to move forward in the downtown.
And you can't come forward right now with where that viability lies in the site.
Yeah.
When will you know?
We believe we will know with more certainty in the coming weeks, months.
You're in negotiations.
We're not actively negotiating. We're in the early stages. We have some options in mind that we're discussing.
the way it works, folks.
Yep.
It's the way it works. Sean.
Either Emily or Joe, like, so is with the county, that seeing like maybe that is a possibility. Is that really hard to buy county land? Is that is that a hurdle?
Necessarily buy it.
I don't know if that would be a hurdle. It's more about programming and whether that site works well.
Okay, okay, I gotcha.
When you say programming, I want to be very clear. It's programming within the BGS world or
With
programming with what judiciary's needs are.
One and the same in this case. It is that, I mean, it's their program, judiciary's program, and then we need to program a building site.
Design
to
a building
accommodate
site.
Their needs, yes.
Their program.
We'll hear about it soon.
So by the end of February, you would have a little bit more direction, maybe 1st of March?
I think that we'll have better direction.
That's what we're hoping for.
Fingers crossed.
Perhaps.
Thank you.
Because that will tie into markup. That will tie into markup, because right now what's being proposed for Newport is an additional 1.7 million bonds and 750 cash for a total of 2.47 million on top of what's already been appropriated in the past.
Mhm.
That's what's being proposed now. So when we get to markup, we may move those numbers around a little bit based on information you might have that's more clear on the path forward. Or it could be more murky on the path forward, which then leads to other decisions in markup. And then it might clear up a little bit once the bill gets over to the Senate. And then that might change then. Right?
What are they using now? Like what's being,
They're using the old
they're
courthouse.
using this building?
Yes, they're using this.
They are in there right now.
They-
Oh, okay, gotcha.
This has been ongoing for a long time. It's trying to find land. You can't build the building until you have the land. That's really hard for some folks to comprehend. You gotta have the land to build. It's a tough, I'm serious. There are folks that don't understand that.
The unfortunate reality is, sorry, there's me. As soon as people find out that the government wants the money, price goes up. It makes it even harder. So.
That's why we have to be careful when we put in money in the capital bill for site acquisition. Anything else on this one? To be determined. Like Barry, to be determined. Like the Essex, to be determined. Anything else for the committee? So I'm gonna ask members, please do not forget that we're due for information back on Essex in terms of their estimate. I do want to have a conversation with A&R about the Guildhall drinking water system. We need further with John. John's gonna get back to us a little bit more in terms of all the moving pieces for the Barry Courthouse. John?
You want me to describe them right now? I can send you an email.
Yeah, I'd rather have it in writing so that we can see, or, because we have so many moving pieces, dollar wise as well as language. And then the estimate, and then when you have a better idea of the moving pieces for land and Newport. Make sense? Anything else for the judiciary here? Do you folks dare say anything else? No. Craig, that was precious. I don't dare. He says. You weren't raked over the coals, were you?
No,
No.
great.
Anything else before we break? Not before the morning, but you know. 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm definitely coming back.
We look forward to it. You don't know.
We try to do Wednesday and Thursday mornings. Capital bill. So let's take a quick break, folks, and then come back. We're due at 10 o'clock, but come on back a little bit before. And we'll go off